Hey, it's Rich. I am at the Simeone Foundation Museum. It's April 15th, tax day. Ooh. This is an off day for the museum, which is really nice time to be here. If you've never been to the Simeone Museum, you really should check it out. See this car here? It's a 1909, the American underslung. Even the name is cool. It was designed for endurance racing. That rolling table over here is the table on which this car was designed. So that was just recently donated to the museum. Pretty cool. I like all the old school mechanical aspects of it. Now it's all plastic and lightweight metal spring clips, which I'm not saying I'm against, but it's just not nearly as cool as that. You could turn that into a go-kart if you had to. This is the entrance of the museum. Of course, like every museum, the gift shop is at the end. So we'll just start our tour this way. And it's chronologically laid out. Like, I could literally stop and just talk over every car, so I'm not going to do that. But if you saw Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, this car was emulated in it. As was a car similar to this. These are all what they call pre-war, meaning pre-First World War cars. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? That's a Stutz. Oh no, pardon me, that's a National. That's a 1912 Speed car. These are all race cars. There are no production cars here. There's the Stutz. Gorgeous. This car is significant. America's first international win. A 1921 Duesenberg. That was the motor. Look at that. Took some big ones to get in that car. Because this is the 20s, right? Take a look at that engine. Very simple. Look at it. Is that a supercharger right there? It's just, it's not only the fastest of its kind at its time, it's literally the design from an artistic point of view stands up to this day. Watkins Glen. I'm not even going to go there because, again, we're going to get into Watkins Glen in June and we'll have plenty of discussion about that. So this is probably the most popular car in the museum. National Historic Vehicle Register number 1. 1964 Shelby Cobra Daytona Coupe. If you saw the movie Ford versus Ferrari, this is the car that was in the background, sitting by the back of the hangar, or the car that was portrayed, because that is serial number 1. Just the fact that Dr. Simeone has that car demonstrates that his acceptance into this carcraft collecting. He was a curator. He saw these as art. That's how he explained it. But they're historic. This car is historic. It's just awesome stuff. So, now we kind of jumped chronologically right there. Now we're going to go back to Now, if you think about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Brooklyn's racetrack, or the movie Those Magnificent Men and Their Flying Machines took place at Brooklyn's racetrack. That's the big track in the UK. That's the Indy 500 track of the UK. And hill climbing was actually a very popular early form of racing. Enzo Ferrari, his only racing successes as a driver came in hill climb events. But it was 1924 when Enzo Ferrari was on his way to the French Grand Prix. And I think he had a meeting Jesus moment, and he said, "What the fuck am I doing?" He pulled over, turned around, and said, "I am not a race car driver." And then he basically, from that point on, he did what he did. Check out these BMWs. Look at them. Can you imagine 1927 and you're rolling up for your date in that? Oh God, look at it. There's even some like SS symbols on there. If you say, hey, that's not a race car, well, actually, it is. Now we come around to where I think some of the most interesting cars in the museum are, but that could be, I could just put me anywhere and I could tell you that. Now you see this 25 Alfa Romeo? This is what young Enzo Ferrari was doing in his early days. He was running a race team of Alfa Romeos in different forms and variations along the way. At some point for the factories, for himself. Now this car right here has a prominent spot because it's a prominent car. The Bugatti Type 35 was of its day what the Bugatti Veyron is of today. Those are magnesium alloy wheels in 1926. Everything about this car was just two tops, or two tiers better than everything else around it. As a member of the Simeone Museum, I received an invitation to come out one afternoon when the Bugatti Owners Club was passing by. They were coming from Hershey. I forget where they were going, maybe down the shore. Perhaps the most select car owners club in the world. People who own cars like this and are second, third generation owners. Yeah, they have everything budgeted and planned based on miles. It was like about a 35,000 mile service cycle. They just drive them. Quite frankly, they're rich people that are just kind of, at that point, they're bred to drive these cars. And this is a very select club. But see these Alfas? This is the heart and soul of what Dr. Simeone was all about. He was perhaps one of the foremost Alfa Romeo experts, or from a historic point of view, in the world. I could just look at these cars all day. It all happened in the 30s. 1933, they came out with this, I don't know how else to call it, just their standard body style, but they would adapt it. You can see how 33, it started with just single fenders, but then the fenders flared, and by 37, 38, you see how they got more distinct. And Dr. Simeone's favorite car is a 38. Now you see this car here that I'm pointing at. This is a, I think it's a 3800C Monza, or 8C Monza, pardon me. Monza meaning Monza race prep, as opposed to a Le Mans race prep. And it's a beautiful car. And one demo day, Dr. Simeone says, I commented to him about how beautiful the paint is, and his response was, it needs to be left out in a hailstorm. He said that to me. Look at this. That was a race car. They were not successful in racing, but are famous as the first production car with a unit body construction. Monocoque. That's the service car sitting in the garage. They use that for parts. Look at this. This is a gorgeous car. See how it's kind of old and rubbed down a little bit? It's preservation. That's what Dr. Simeone was all about. In 1928, this was the car to have. If you recall, the 1921 Stutz, that one, the car we looked at earlier, just changed the body on this. Look at that boat tail. It's the same thing. But this was a race car. Now, this is where some of the really more popular cars are. We're talking sports car, Le Mans, and Sebring. And I can tell you from a iRacing experience point of view, I understand the lure of Sebring. It's just a great track. Jags, 53 C-Type. Look at that. The British had their own style. That was definitely a beautiful car. And then the 56 D-Type. I mean, we all had the little AFX race cars that look like this, right? But they were green typically. So now we get into the Le Mans cars. And I'm going to go a little bit. 27 Bentley, another 33 Alfa. See, Le Mans prep, as opposed to Monza prep. Yes, an MG. I think it finished third in class. Oh no, first and second. Oh wait, that's Mila. Here it is. Fourth overall in 34 Le Mans. That was its most successful Le Mans performance. But look at it, it's just so cool. That's supercharger on the front. Yeah. There's special oil that goes into that supercharger, and when they run this car, this thing is a loud bitch, and that oil leaks because that is a titanium supercharger, if I recall. It's something about the design of that supercharger that it requires oiling and very special attention, and every one of these cars get that detail of attention because each one is a Mona Lisa. Look at this. 1936 Aston Martin. Yes, it's French, but it's a race car. Isn't that beautiful? Now, there's a lot of jokes made about the French during the Olympics, the French judge, etc. Well, Le Mans happens in France. And the rules of Le Mans have been notorious for changing year to year to match the performance specifications of the leading French car of the time. So one way you can tell a Le Mans prep car are the presence of the leather hood straps. That was a specification. The other specification, this Delahaye is actually kind of cool. This is really loud, smokes a lot, but they're just all awesome. And these are all winning cars or top cars. Look at that. That looks like something you'd go to work in, right? did race. Now, here we go. 54 Ferrari. This car is similar to the car that won. Now that's a Maserati. Interesting how the Maserati just has a little bit of a different look. They got the shark look there. It's almost like, what would the comparison be? Like Gryffindor versus Slytherin or something. Now this car here may be one of the most popular here. I think it's my favorite. The 58 Ferrari Testarossa. It's a small V12, but these cars race successfully. Interesting thing about this specific car. When Dr. Simeone was young, this is 1958, he wrote to Ferrari and asked for a brochure. This is the car that was on the brochure that he received. The actual car. Now you notice how that hood or the nose is bolted on, kind of the way Dodge put a long nose on the early Daytonas, etc. That's how you know that's an early car, because the later cars don't have that rib there. Now, the 250 GT Ferrari, it doesn't look like much, but it really is, especially in 1959. Now look at that. I think this was overall winner. Yeah, 1963 overall Le Mans winner. These guys were on the top of the podium, and notice the little leather straps. To that day, they still had to have the leather straps. Now, the crazy thing about French rules that goes all the way up to this point is the other thing about the rule is that you had to have 2 seats. Now, going to 1970, when the Porsche 917 came out, the LH. Now, there is actually an entire genre of people who just love this car. Literally millions of people, and deservedly. It's one of the most fantastic race cars ever designed. It's got 2 seats. Can you see it? Because I had a rule, French rule, but I don't see the leather straps. So we're getting near the end. Just going to pass these now. Americans at Le Mans. So a 1927 Stutz. A 29 Stutz. Is that not the most sinister car you've ever seen? It really is. Look at that. That is just, the car is leather wrapped with a boat tail. Look at that. Yep. 1930 DuPont Le Mans Speedster. Interesting story real quick. When I was in the automotive equipment business, there was a customer of mine who had a Pennsylvania Missions machine, and he was my customer. And he was the recipient of all of the DuPont factory tools and everything. And I was in his shop. So I actually need to follow up where... I've talked with Kevin before, and Kevin knew him. So Kevin is someone associated with the museum here. Notice the Le Mans straps. So this is the iconic car that beat Ferrari. This is not that car, but it's one like it, the Ford GT40. And this car, now I don't want to get my facts wrong here. I think it was Mario Andretti drove this car on the back stretch at Le Mans at, I think, 240 miles an hour. It was 1967. It said that Mario Andretti equaled the track record, but Yeah, I'm not sure the exact speed. I think it was like 239 or 240 miles an hour. So there you go. That's the Simeone Museum. And then this is the winner circle. This is a 1958 Aston Martin that Sterling Moss drove to victory at, I think, well, let's just look. I know it was in Germany. Yeah, Nürburgring. When I was stationed in Germany, I was right near the Nürburgring. Look at that car. The Brits can design some cars. They have their own style, though. They have their own style. Now, this car here, a 1952 Cunningham C4R. He also made a C5R. But this guy actually won in 1954. Class winner Le Mans. This car right here. That's saying something. Notice the leather straps on the hood. We go over here to this Mercedes. Notice the leather straps. Look at the heater vents for the exhaust. They're designed to dissipate heat. S-Series Sport Wagon. This car won the first German Grand Prix at Nürburgring 1927. The first car to win the German Grand Prix, and it's here. So that's pretty significant. 1936 Bugatti 57G tank, right? You call a car a tank, and what's there not to love? Look at that front end. It's all business. It's like, I don't want to insult anybody. It's just not necessarily attractive. Notice the leather straps, but the farther away you get from 50 feet, you know, it's like, okay, now that works, you know? Very badass. And it was fast. And then the 1939 Alfa Romeo 8C 2900B. This is Dr. Simeone's favorite car. Won the 1938 Mille Miglia, the last pre-war Mille Miglia winner. Bandetti. Dr. Simeone drove this car on 2 Mille Miglias. I think they're more like road rallies these days, but look at that. Look at that. Think of the earlier Alfas and how the fender designs were. And by 37, the front fenders were getting more developed, and these are actually now fully, bigger, just a lot bigger. And that's it. That's the Simeone Museum. It's my video. And one last interesting thing here. This is the gift shop, and notice over the gift shop, I don't know if you can see it, there's like a wire frame mesh up there. Well, that's the wire frame mesh of that car created by Alfa Romeo when they came and wanted to capture its design. And when they were finished with it, they donated the frame to the museum. Isn't that cool? So here's Alfa Romeo. Dr. Simeone was knighted by the Italian government for his contributions to medicine. Everything you're seeing here pales into comparison to what the man did in his life, the lives he saved. I've spoken to people who would have otherwise been dead, standing in front of me because of procedures and techniques Dr. Simeone invented. He was a leading neurosurgeon in the world. This is a great place. I highly recommend it.